Now in this chapter, I want to just change gear slightly and give you a done-for-you solution. I want to show you 4 different interview style setups that you can replicate in small confined spaces like this, just using these 4 lights. Okay, this is what I call my Apple setup. Now, if you've ever watched any of the Apple commercials when they're launching new products, it's this style. Now, this is very simple to replicate and you don't need lots of big lights to pull it off. The first thing you've got to do is make your background go nice and white. So I'm going to set this light first. On this side, it's a little DLH4 from Dedo. And then on the opposite side, at exactly the same height and distance, switch that power on. I'm going to set this light to basically flood the backgrounds nice and evenly. So we'll look at that now on the main monitor. So what we've actually got now is a very clean white background. And if you look at that wall in reality, there's actually some marks in it, there's a bit of paint scrubbed on there. But because we're setting that so it peaks over 100% on the IRE meter here on the waveform, we actually got a nice pure no detail in the wall. So that's our starting point. So the secret to all of this is pure white background. But let me just go over one very key element. You'll notice I don't have matte but it straight up against the wall. I've got a good 1.5 to 2 meters gap between the wall and matte. And the same again, if not slightly more, between the camera and matte. That gives me very distinct areas to have lighting. So what I'm doing here is I'm lighting this part of the scene separately from this part of the scene. We've got a little bit of light reflecting off the wall onto matte, but not a huge amount. And that means I've got my background light. I can then light matte from the back, and then I can light matte from the front. So I've got very distinct areas. Now, Matt's sitting slightly looking this way, so I want to imagine he's talking off camera there. So the first thing I'm going to do, Fred, is I'm going to put this key light over to the side of the camera that Matt is looking into. The reason for this is when he looks towards this light, he's looking into the light and he'll get lit up. So have a look at that. Get that nice and low, get the sweet spot of the light there, twist it around. There we go. Now, is that cleared frame? Yes. So what I've done there now is I've brought a key light in. It's lighting both of his eyes, and I want to just bring that a little bit closer. In fact, this one, I can probably take off the egg crate because I'm not worried about spill in this shot because the background is completely white anyway. And what I've done there is I've gained about a stop of exposure. Now that on its own is pretty good, but the difference that makes a difference is those little extras. So the final light I'm going to place into the shot is this one here, which is another Dedolight. So there's a myth that you need lots of big powerful lights to pull this look off, and I don't agree that that's the case. I'm using no light greater than 150 watts here, and what I can do is bring this one up to here, bring it nice and far back, again separating my plane, so I've got the wall lit, the foreground lit, and then I'm bringing this light up to just add a little bit of a back light onto his hair. And I'll take a quick look at that in the main shot. That's a little bit hot. I'm seeing a bit too much highlight. So there's a couple of things I can do. I could diffuse that light, but I could just equally reduce the intensity down to 50%. Now my only concern in this shot is this slight highlight we're getting off the side of Matt's head. So I think what I'd like to do is soften this light, and what I can do is use this adapter to place onto the stand. And what I'm going to do is diffuse this light. It's a very quick setup, this. So I'm using this light disc, and that will diffuse the light. And all I need to do is wrap it around this aspect here. Now what you'll find is we'll reduce intensity because of the diffusion plate. But we've softened that light from a hard source straight down to a soft source. And apart from seeing the stand and frame, that's a much more pleasing look. So if I just pull this frame, this lighting stand back, it doesn't really affect the light, but I just take it out of the back shot. Much, much more pleasing. So there's a very simple setup to create that Apple-esque look, and we're just using a white wall in an office.